Hey everybody, it is Greg Milby with Kentucky'sHeartland.com, and there is Weather Now Kentucky's George Herbig. And George asked me to step in tonight and kind of set in and just kind of monitor stuff and discuss the weekend, which has changed quite a bit over the last few
Indeed,
days.
it
But
has.
so, George, I know the question of the day, question of the night, question
Right.
of tomorrow is what kind of snow amounts are we going to get here?
Right on. And we'll touch base with that here in a few moments. But before we dive into everything, I want to make sure that I ask everyone to tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen. If you guys are not new here, you know we do this all the time. Helps get the video out to your friends and family so that we can view it and get informed and up to date on what to expect as well. As always, don't forget to drop a like on it if you do enjoy the video as well. Thank you guys so much for that. So there is a lot to talk about for this weekend. Our pattern, as I told Greg a couple hours ago, is getting super active over the better portion of this month and going into February. But tonight, we're going to take a real quick look into what to expect just for this weekend. This system alone has had me pulling what's left of my hair out. So let's go ahead and look at the model data here. I'm just going to kind of briefly go through this because, again, there are still some variables that we are waiting on to kind of sort themselves out. And that part itself probably won't be here until tomorrow afternoon. We have to wait till the system undergoes cyclogenesis, yada, yada, yada. Basically, wait until it gets kind of initiating and going. But so far, I want to take a look here and just show you kind of the general path of the storm and why it's been a difficult one to forecast. So first of all, we have I'm actually going to zoom out to the low or the actual national view here. Lots going on. Don't worry, I'll explain it to you real quick. This general map of the United States kind of shows all the pressures moving west to east, north to south. Basically, our system started all the way back here toward California, has made its way on land, and is actually sitting right here. It will dive down. I'm sure you can see my cursor on the screen. It will dive down toward the Texas and Oklahoma area and then back out toward the Gulf of Mexico, but it will split its energy, making two different low pressures. This is where it gets really interesting because one of those low pressures is going to become more dominant. The question is which one. That has not been answered just yet, and that will directly affect the forecast. As of now, I feel pretty confident on which low pressure will become dominant. And that's why we've gone ahead and scheduled the live broadcast for this evening. So just to kind of scoot you through here, and I will zoom it into more of a local view so you can see more specifically based upon where you're at more of what to expect, but just an overall idea here. Here's our system. You can see it start to get going. As that pushes on forward, this is actually valid for Friday afternoon. It's ongoing down there towards south central United States, and then it'll kind of split apart, die down a little bit. That's because it's undergoing cyclogenesis, and that basically just means that a low pressure is getting stronger, but before it gets stronger, it has to get weaker. So it's kind of died down on the northern part. The southern part starting to win out, but what happens when this interacts with this high pressure sitting over here to our east, it actually shoots the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to Kentucky, and that creates what we call a battleground of temperatures. We have a cold front that's actually trying to push its way down from Canada into Kentucky, and at the same time, we have warm, moist air pushing its way from the Gulf of Mexico up into Kentucky. You're starting to see the headache that this has caused forecasters over the last 72 hours. As that pushes on forward through Friday evening, starts to get going around Friday midnight, going into Saturday morning, starting as rain. And then as we push this on forward, you can start to see that low pressure is starting to win out on the northern side. It actually go up through Tennessee, and then it'll scoot out here toward the Appalachian Mountains. Typically, when this happens, we actually end up getting a winter storm here in Kentucky. I'll tell you why that's not the case this time for some folks. For other folks, might get a little more lucky if you're a snow lover. But as I push us on forward through Saturday morning here, you can see, again, the changeover starting to occur up toward north central Kentucky and northeastern Kentucky, and pretty heavy snowfall as well. I want to show you real quickly before I zoom into that local view, the problem that we're looking at here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the temperature chart here and go into our regional look, kind of show you the overall region here of Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, yada, yada. But as I push this on forward, you can see, actually, real quickly, just a note, because this is Kentucky's weekly outlook. Lows of 25 to 30 degrees, even some teens showing up for Friday morning. So keep an eye out for that if you're heading out the door early on Friday. But as I push this on forward, not a bad day on Friday. Highs in the upper 40s, going into the 50s toward Bowling Green. And then you're just left kind of asking, how in the world are we going to get snowfall out of a day that, just a few hours ago was 50 to 45 degrees in some locations? The answer to that is actually above our heads. So before I get to that, I want to show you the temperatures at around the onset of the event actually going to be above freezing for most folks. So this is actually valid for Saturday morning early. So the main snow time frame is basically from around 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Saturday, maybe a little bit after 9 a.m. But we'll have to see kind of how that timing trends. That part will change quite a bit as we get closer. But I just want to point out this is kind of the onset of the event. You can see 34 in Elizabethtown, 32 in Lexington, 31 to 30 degrees up there toward northeastern Kentucky, 38 all the way back down to Bowling Green, 40 down there toward Paducah. So some questionable temperature profiles that we're already seeing to show up. And then it only gets warmer after the event ends. So I want to show you real quickly how we can get snowfall to occur despite it being above 32 degrees. And that is when we look above our heads. I'm actually on the wrong chart here. So let's go ahead and pull this all the way forward here. This is actually valid for the same time frame. And I want you to look at this. So this is what we call the 850 millibar, basically thousands of feet above our head. We can get snowfall to occur if it is freezing above our head close to the ground. So because a snowfall can fall through really fast and it can overcome warm surface temperatures if it's still frozen above our heads, but not too far above it. I know, kind of hard to explain there. You can start to see the headache that we're talking about here. But you can see the freezing line definitely is down toward central Kentucky. I guess it's about the Western Kentucky Parkway and the Bluegrass Parkways, but it is below freezing above our heads at that point throughout the storm. And you can start to see that it is below freezing up there toward northeastern Kentucky. However, it is above freezing in south central, southwestern, and southeastern Kentucky. That is because, again, we're in a kind of a battleground. You can see the warm, moist air is fighting the cold, dry air. It'll kind of the warm air, I should say, sorry, kind of a lot to explain here in a short amount of time. The warm air will actually push the cold air back up to the north before the cold air decides to fight back. And that will create a lot of rain to snow mixes, rain to snow, then back to rain, then perhaps some freezing rain, and then some sleet mixing in. Overall mess is starting to set up for your Saturday morning. Now I'm going to zoom in for you and just show you kind of what the overall reflectivity looks like. Basically, what the future radar might look like. I'm going to zoom this all the way forward to Friday night. You can see Friday around 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Rain starts to get going out there toward Western Kentucky. As that pushes us on forward to around midnight, you can see it kind of stalls out there. Again, we talked about it. It's going to stall. It's going to get a little bit weaker. And then it'll get a little bit stronger once it finishes its power-up cycle. Right, as I pushes forward through 2 to 3 to 4 a.m., you start to see something here. Heavier rainfall occurring in south central Kentucky and southwestern Kentucky. This is going to lead to something that we don't usually see a ton around here, and it's really cool. It's actually referred to as dynamic cooling. That basically means, in really simple elementary terms, kind of a hole is going to open up in the atmosphere, bring those cold air temperatures that we talked about above our heads down to the ground and temporarily throw us below freezing in some places. It is a really cool phenomenon. However, you have to have significantly hard rainfall rates in order for that to occur. And when that dynamic cooling does occur, that's when we'll see this rain switch over to snow, but that will only occur in some places. As I push this on forward to 4 to 5 a.m., you can see exactly what I'm talking about. See these blue blobs, I should say, popping up within the green. That's your snowfall, and that's only happening because of the dynamic cooling. I do want to note to you, though, that models have a very tough time of determining the exact location of dynamic cooling. It also has a very tough time of determining the timing of dynamic cooling. So that's something we're going to have to do in real time. So make sure you're staying tuned for updates with that. You can see about 5 to 6 a.m., we do have some heavier snow starting to fall down toward Lexington and Louisville up toward northern Kentucky. Now we're starting to see that freezing line start to show up more toward Elizabethtown as well. As I push this on forward to 6 to 7 a.m., you can see snow really starts to take over for basically I-64 corridor or north, and some places just to the south of it. And then ongoing heavy snowfall out there toward Lexington and eastern portions of Kentucky for 9 to 10 to 11 a.m. So that's the overall timing. The temperature profile is going to be super important. Where exactly that low pressure we talked about, where exactly that tracks is going to be super important as well. Where the dynamic cooling sets up, you start to see what I'm talking about. A ton of variables at play here, Greg. Just a ton of them, and we still need a little bit more time to work out exactly what those variables might look like.
So I was just getting ready to say, so we still don't really have an answer.
Right. So we do have a map prepared for you. If Greg wants to pull that up, I'm not sure how he wants to do the timing with everything. We still have a message from our buddies out at Right Implement. But we do have a map prepared for you. It is not a snowfall accumulation map. However, It is a snow probability map, and that is going to be our first step. Tomorrow morning at the latest, I will publish our first call for snowfall. However, like I to explain to you, there are still so many variables out there that are out play that putting out a forecast right now, you can talk. I was talking with Greg with it a couple hours ago while we were preparing for this broadcast. I did have a snowfall accumulation map prepared. However, I just felt like I was pulling again, whatever hairs left on my head. I was pulling it out, just trying to do I do a probability map? Do I do an accumulation map? If I'm doing that, the best thing to do is to go with a little bit more of the conservative approach because, again, there are so many variables at play. And I can't see the screen, so I'm not sure what Greg is showing you. But if you have the probability map up, Greg?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, awesome. So if you look at that map, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually see what's going on here. So if you look at that map, there is a 70% risk just to the north of Lexington. That might, again, these zones might move a little bit too. So again, still a lot of variables at play. So this is not a 100% certain map. This can definitely change by the time we get a little bit closer to the event. Timing is important. Temperatures are important. Where that low exactly tracks is super important as well. So right now, though, we have the heaviest or the highest, I should say, probability just north of Lexington. And then just outside of that, and that, what do we want to call that? Dark purple. I don't know. I'm not
sure
good with
you're
colors.
Asking me.
I'm not really good with colors myself, but we have a 45% risk just outside of that bullseye, a 30% risk just outside of that, and then a 25% risk just outside of that. And then that brown, again, mainly rainfall there because the temperatures, as I showed you guys, just are not favorable. Now, again, could shift a little bit. However, the all rain zone, I'm pretty confident in that area being all rain. So I don't expect any real changes to the all rain or the tan zone. Again, temperatures just don't line up. But don't feel bad if you are a snow lover in that area. There are several events upcoming that we could potentially see some snowfall from that area. But for now, this is our snow probability map. Of course, again, tomorrow morning, I will be showing you guys the actual snowfall accumulation that we do expect for our first call. We just need a little bit more time to iron out the fine details.
So we've got some comments on here. A lot of folks
Right
want
on.
to know, of course, about their area. I don't know if you know that person there.
Oh my gosh, who is that? She is beautiful. That's my wife, everybody.
Bo Phelps says that this is going to be a mess. Bo, I don't really think it is. I think we're all kind of, you and I had mentioned before, we're all just so, whether you love snow or dislike snow, we haven't had a bunch in the last couple of years.
You're right, and I failed to mention that. That's a good note. I'm actually going to put a post out tomorrow morning about this. It's been almost 700 days. You heard it right. Almost 700 days or over 2 years since the majority of Kentucky has seen a measurable snowfall of over 1 inch. Now, again, I think last year was it right before Christmas, a few days before Christmas, a lot of folks saw a lot of sleet that kind of looked like snow because there was so much sleet. And then there was some measurable snowfall for some folks. But again, the majority of Kentucky, it's been a long time. And I was telling Greg, even an inch or two out of this, it may cause a little bit of a mess. But as I showed you, just after the event ends, we go into a warmer pattern almost immediately, almost hours after the event ends. You guys saw it for yourself. We jump all the way up into the upper 30s and 40s. So the brine that I know some counties and cities are already doing, I don't think that's the best case scenario for them to be putting down. I think they're wasting a little bit of money there because the rain's going to wash it all out. So not making much sense to me. They should have given me a call. But the salt that they put down afterwards should have absolutely zero issue taking care of things. Now, there will be some temporary road issues because, again, it's going to be coming down so hard. You're talking about if you do see snowfall on Saturday morning, they will be the massive flakes, the really cool videos, So have your cameras ready and whatnot because they will look cool. They will be gone very fast.
Well, that's good news for folks that have things going on this weekend. Like, shout out to the folks down in Bowling Green. I'll be down there for a Frozen 4. They have a road race that's happening. That would have been very interesting in snow.
Oh,
course.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's going to be wet. We know that.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Again, much respect to you for not doing the accumulation map. I know.
I appreciate that.
When we talked about it, you were leaning way away from it and just asked me, and I was like, I think we're right on by not doing that because we truly don't know. And I
Right
think I
on.
saw one map that you showed me that's a forecast for a week or so from now. It says 45 inches. We know
Yeah.
those. We know those maps
I,
aren't.
s-
Those are
I showed Greg.
projections.
I had to tell somebody. I had to tell somebody because it looks awesome, right? But model data outside of 3 to 4 days, even right now, we're sitting 3 days away from this event, and I still don't feel confident in what the model data is displaying. I showed Greg there is the possibility of an event for next weekend. Actually, a pretty likely possibility of an event for next weekend. Don't ask me the details yet because that model was showing 45 inches of snow for Missouri in a matter of 24 hours. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you, right? That just goes to show you that it's just it. A lot of these things need a lot more than just looking at model data. You have to do a lot of things. Like Greg said, we were pulling out our hair earlier. What's left of both of our hair?
Yeah.
Trying to
Hey,
figure
so
out what we should do
Connor
tonight.
here's asking. He said he missed the first part. We're not expecting any ice really from this storm, right? It goes
No,
directly from rain to snow.
right on, Connor. Thank you for that question. I appreciate you tuning in, but I don't think there's a great ice threat with this. Mainly, again, I do. If temperatures were lower, Greg, I could probably see a small ice threat. But again, we're talking about temperatures that are going to be battling for that freezing line. A lot like last year, unfortunately, where we saw storm after storm after storm just battle for that 32-degree line. I don't think that's the case this year. I think we get a little bit more luck if you're a snow lover, but for this particular storm, we're talking about temperatures that are going to be hovering from 31 to 34. That's not exactly ideal for ice conditions. And on top of that, what you want to see if you don't want to see, but what you're looking for if you're talking about an ice threat is that light, that freezing drizzle with no wind really. That's not the case tomorrow, guys. It's going to be raining really hard. It's going to be super windy at times as well. On top of that, it should just go right from rain to snow. There shouldn't be a whole lot of sleet or ice in between because the temperature profiles just don't line up with that.
Yeah. Hey, Megan says no snow means you're fired. So
What?
you're gonna have to pick up your last check. And well, considering it's your check, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll just send Megan. I guess we'll just send Megan a little donation, huh? Hey, look, I'm as big of a snow lover as it gets. It has taken a lot for me to not get excited or talk myself into something happening this week, which is a very big real thing because last few years I would have done it 1,000%. But no, we'll get our time. We'll get our time, guys.
All right, so we'll recap that in a couple of seconds here, but we want to thank again Right Implement Company who sponsors these casts that make this possible. So we appreciate them, and of course they have all kinds of equipment to handle snowy weather. So whether we get snow this time or not, and actually if we don't, now's the time to do that because
Absolutely.
when the snow
And
is
real
here,
quickly, Greg, sorry to cut you off. But real quick, I just want to mention they have over 15 locations. They have 15 locations over Southern Indiana and Kentucky. So a lot of convenient locations for folks to visit. And they've been a sponsor for a while here. They make everything possible for us. Go ahead, Greg. Didn't mean to cut you off. Just want to throw that little note in there.
it's your show. I'm just sitting in here. You know, if you're one of those folks that want to impress your neighbors and you want a snowblower, so when it does snow, you are well prepared. They've got snow blowers, they've got heaters, generators if they're needed, and of course those famous shovels. You need those, and lots of other things to help get you through that winter mess when we get it. We're due at some point, right?
Oh, it's like when you're watching a baseball player, right? If they're got a week or two of nothing going on, you know they're due for a big game. Just like here in Kentucky, like I said, it's been over 700 days for some folks to have a measurable snowfall of 1 inch or more. And in fact, Louisville for the entire 2023 year only saw 1.3 inches of snow, which is about 700% below average. So we are due. I promise you. I promise you, it will happen.
I'm not complaining because I'm a 49-year-old man that's a 12-year-old child when it snows.
Yeah.
And I like to go out and do things that my body necessarily can't do like it could back in the day. And I pay for it for a few weeks. So
Yeah.
it's been a couple of years since I've been really sore and questioned whether I would have a leg when I stopped on the sled.
I love snow. I love snow, and it's been really disappointing around here. But I will say that back in our Wintercast 2.0 on the first week of December, my first prediction for the first snowfall accumulation anywhere in Kentucky was January 6th. So we are on par with what we thought about over a month ago. I do still think there is quite a bit of snowfall events to occur this month. So just be patient, everyone. A lot of people forget winter only started 14 days ago. It's so hard. It's so easy to forget that,
Well, it's
with
because we're
Christmas and
so
everything.
confused because the weather is confused. I mean, it
Oh,
was
I know.
60 one week and 30 the next. We can't make up our mind. So you don't know what the temperatures are supposed to
I,
be at
I
this point.
can't. I could not agree more. I wish I would just pick something and go with it. Be a little bit easier for me.
Yeah. Hey, Tony wants to know when exactly the rain will start.
That's an awesome question. So we do have, again, I think about the 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. time frame for Western Kentucky. Kind of depends upon where you're at, of course. It'll start between 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Western Kentucky on Friday evening, slowly progress its way through the state throughout early Saturday morning, going into late Saturday morning, and then a transition to snow sometime around sunrise on Saturday for some folks in north central and northeastern Kentucky. So basically, you can bet on a good amount of rainfall or something to happen in your neck of the woods pretty much overnight Friday going into Saturday and into Saturday morning, really tapering off by the afternoon on Saturday.
Ashley, we apologize. You're right. Ashley says she's from Indiana. Kentucky needs snow. Yeah, Indiana's gotten their fair share of it over the last couple of
Not
years
only that,
and
Greg,
not
but
shared it with us.
they're getting plenty of it from this system. The next system on Tuesday, which is going to be a big rainmaker for us, unfortunately. We'll talk about that down the road. And then they have a really great shot next weekend. So you're talking about 3 chances for Indiana over the next 10 days. I am jealous. I'm just going to put it like that. I'm jealous.
Yeah, and Tammy says, "Is the bread and milk time?" Now, I would say on a
No,
bread and milk grading scale of 1 to 5, we're probably on one
one.
one piece of bread
Yeah.
and a pint of milk.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about the Great Blizzard of 1994 here. We're talking about a snow that's going to look beautiful if you get to see it. It's going to look wonderful, like I said, very photogenic type of snowfall. But then it's gone. 38 to 39 degrees after the event ends. A little bit of sun peeking through the clouds. I will tell you that we are starting to track a chance for some flurries and perhaps some heavier snowfall showers on Sunday morning as this moisture sits in the area. The cold air will like to squeeze it out, kind of like a sponge. That's again, we have to wait till after the event actually ends in order for that to be able to track, because you have to look at all kinds of different things that I'm not going to bore you with. But we are tracking a small chance for some additional snow showers on Sunday morning. But we'll keep an eye on that for you guys.
All right. Well, it's hard to really kind of continue talking too much about it whenever there's really not that much to talk about. But here's
Right
your
on.
probability for Saturday snow again, George. And you think that has the potential to change a few times between now and Saturday?
Yeah, I mean the potential is there because there's so many variables at play. Again, guys, the pressure, the track of the low pressure that carries our storm system, it could change. The timing at which it arrives is super crucial as well. This has to be a nighttime event if there's any chance of any snowfall. It's almost like that 90% of the time in Kentucky. Anytime it occurs throughout the day, you're starting to talk about plain rain. I am very confident on the timing. I do think the timing's not going to change very much, but the zones of greatest probability and the zones of highest accumulations might shift a little bit dependent upon the track of that low pressure. So again, probabilities are about 70% for that bluegrass region up to the north of Lexington, and that could shift. That is probably the zone that could shift the most. So the greatest probability zone is the one that could shift the most. The all tan or brown or 10% or less area, I feel pretty confident that unfortunately, if you're a snow lover, you're not going to see snow in that area no matter what really happens, unless a dramatic change occurs. And of course, we'll let you know if that's the case. But the zones where the highest probabilities are, those could shift a little bit. Outside of that, I feel pretty confident what we've got so far. We do have some fresh data coming in right now as Greg and I are talking to you. So here in a couple hours, I'll post a little bit of an update. So if you haven't already followed the WK page on Facebook or like it on or subscribe to it on YouTube, sorry, so new to the YouTube gang, but I'm learning on it.
All right, good stuff. Well, George, anything else you want to add? I know we've covered a lot in 24 minutes, a lot, and then
Right on.
not much at all because there's not a whole lot.
Yeah. Again, guys, we'll have an update for you all in a little bit. I do have plans for an accumulation map to be posted tomorrow morning on both our Twitter and our Facebook. If you don't know our Twitter, it's the same thing. Weather Now Kentucky. We pop up at the top no matter where you go. So just search that up. But we do have that available. We will have it available on Twitter and Facebook. I may try to put it up on how the data looks to do another broadcast tomorrow evening, or just upload a video, one of the two. I know you guys love these things. So I'll try to get that done for you all. I know there'll be a lot of questions, as there always is. And I understand it. Again, Greg and I kind of told you guys, hey, it's been almost 700 days since a lot of people have seen any real measurable snowfall of over 1 inch. So I understand the first potential snow chance, everyone's jumping on it. I will tell you though, once again, if you do miss out on snowfall this weekend, don't be beating yourself up over it because there are several chances between now and I'll go ahead and tell you, mid-February, the whole month, next month or 30, 40 days looks pretty active, whether it's rain or snow or strong weather. At the end of the day, it looks active, and that's all you can ask for if you're a snow lover. You just want the chance to get that to occur. And some brutal cold air on the way for mid-month, but we'll cover that a little bit down the road.
Real quick, is I know Cliff Notes version because it's far enough out, but I think
Right
Tammy asked, Wayne and JT have asked about the possibility of snow on Tuesday.
So that's a great question. I haven't really looked at that system. The weather is kind of like dominoes, right, guys? You have to have the first one to fall, then the later systems will start to fall in line with it. I will tell you that on Tuesday, it does look like a lot of wind. I'm talking 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts throughout a long period. So we'll have to actually prepare for some wind damages more than anything. Lots of rainfall. And there is, because the low pressure is so strong on Tuesday, it's one of the strongest ones I've seen in a while, to be honest with you. And if it was a little bit more east, we'd be getting plummeted by snow. But at the end of the day, it'll actually track through Missouri, which is way too far west for a snow system here. But on the backside, as that low pressure lifts north of us, we could see some snow wrap around the backside of it because it is so strong. We'll keep an eye on that. I think our better snow chance, if we're talking about any realistic snow chances down the road, is around the 13th to the 14th of January, which I believe is next weekend. So that's actually, to me, Greg, our next best chance, but there is also a smaller chance on the Tuesday system as well. Again, active pattern upcoming, guys.
All right. Again, Wright Implement Company, they have you covered when it comes to snowy weather, whether it's snow blowers, heaters, generators, if there's a power outage, shovels, and much, much more. Make sure you call the folks or stop by and see them at one of their many locations. Wright Implements. Don't wait. Get all that stuff before
Absolutely
the impending.
You don't want to be caught with your pants down, as I like to call it.
All right, George, appreciate you letting me hang in with you here.
Of course, always a
always
blast.
good to kind of watch you work and me just sit here and nod my head. But
it's so much better.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, it is so much better to have Greg lend a hand for us. So if we could show some love to Greg in the chats, I would appreciate that a ton.
All right, well, good deal, man. Well, you'll keep an eye on it, and if anything changes, of course, we'll be in here to take care of you. And this is Weather Now Kentucky, brought to you by Wright Implement Company. You folks have a great night.